The Devil Conspiracy is directed by Nathan Frankowitzki and stars Alice Irwing, Joe Doyle, and Evelyn Hall. A biotech company discovers a way to clone people back from the dead, but when they decide to clone the DNA of Jesus Christ himself, all hell breaks loose. Now look, I'm sure a lot of you have probably never even heard of this movie, but for me, I always have the rule that if I see the trailer for a new release, I have to see that new release sooner or later. And it just so happens that before seeing Violent Night last year, a trailer for The Devil Conspiracy appeared. So, wouldn't you know it, I had to see it regardless of whether my personal opinions was good or bad. And I regret going into that theater as early as I did when I saw Violent Night. This is, without a doubt, one of the most staggeringly boring, bland, awful movies I think I've ever seen. Literally, from the first scene of this film, I knew we were in deep. And as the movie progressed, my opinion did not change. There is literally only one good thing in this movie, and that one good thing is a 1-minute scene that happens in the last third of the film. Not even a good scene, it's just a halfway decent scene of a semi-cool massacre going on. Everything else in the movie is just so dull in comparison that that's pretty much the only thing that stands out about this movie. Alright, so let me just get into everything that is wrong with this movie, excluding spoilers, just in case for some reason, some minute, inescapable reason, you might want to see this movie. Let's start with the characters and the acting. The acting is not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. The reason why I didn't care about anyone in this movie wasn't because of the actors, it was because of the characters. Because they have no development whatsoever. The first third of this movie is so rushed and the writing gives so little character to the characters whatsoever that they pretty much just expect us to care about everyone by the 10-minute mark, even though we know nothing about these people. Maybe the screenwriter and the director were sort of just relying on the actors to have so much liveliness to their performances that they would give the characters personality themselves. But because the direction isn't the best and it's not even really, I'm sorry to say, that good of direction, the characters in terms of the acting have nothing to give. I didn't care about this one art historian who gets captured. I didn't care about this one priest who gets possessed by an angel. I didn't have a strict bias towards wanting to see the devil worshippers in this movie die because they have no personality for me to want to see them die. There is literally a character in this movie, a priest, that shows up at the end of the first act into the second just to give us exposition and has pretty much no personality and no character whatsoever. The tone of this movie is also just all over the place. In one scene, it can be very dark and the music can be very ominous with a lot of dark choir music going for it. But literally, the next scene is literally just following this possessed priest with the most action style electric guitar heavy music that they could imagine. Within the same scene, the movie can go from demonic, dark, and disturbing to very quippy and lighthearted like a Marvel movie. And the pacing in this movie is just so slow. It's less than 2 hours long, but it feels like 2.5 hours because there's so little action or tensity in the good majority of the film. Even the action sequences are awful. The choreography sucks because it's mainly just close-ups of people shooting at each other or pushing each other. There's nothing to it. This is a movie about angels and demons. Get creative with your action sequences and don't just have it be a whole bunch of shooting and pushing with the occasional blade slicing someone in the back. Do you guys remember the movie Legion? Because this movie reminded me a lot of Legion. Although, unlike Legion, where that movie was kind of entertainingly bad, this movie is just so dull and boring. And before I get into my next point, keep in mind, I've seen Supernatural. I love Supernatural. I love their simple yet imaginative depictions of Michael, Lucifer, angels, demons, heaven, hell. They don't have a lot of budget to work with, but what they do have to work with, they work with their imagination, so it makes everything feel bigger and more imaginative and more expansive than it probably actually is. This movie might have the most boring depiction of Michael, Lucifer, angels, demons, heaven, hell ever put to screen. Lucifer looks like Doctor Doom from Fant Forstick. Hell kind of looks like Mordor if the fires that made Mordor look so cool were just sort of dulled down unimaginably. And even Michael the Archangel, the Sword of Heaven, is so dull in this movie. He's not even so stoically badass. He's just there because he has no personality either. And he's stuck just inhabiting the body of this boring priest throughout the entirety of the movie. And he's not even really given any sort of special powers while he's possessing this priest. He can get shot at a lot, but that's it. There's no like super strength. There's barely any super speed. Nothing cool to be done with this priest that's possessed by an angel. And maybe I could forgive the awful action a bit. Maybe I could forgive the fact that nothing in this movie looks cool a bit. If I could see anything in this movie. This movie is just covered head to toe in dark blues, so you can't see a thing. And you can't even make the argument that it's to cover up some of the gorier aspects of the film because, one, there's not a lot of gore to this movie, and two, the movie's rated R. You don't have to censor anything. You don't have to censor much with this movie. All of the dull, boring, awful things already within this movie is just covered in this near pitch black sheet of blue for some reason. This movie's awful. This movie's awful. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. This movie, it's awful. The characters have no personality whatsoever, the action is so boringly basic, the tone feels completely confused, the pacing is agonizingly slow, the world building is unimaginably mediocre, and the cinematography is horrifically underexposed and dark. Considering how the month of January usually is for film, I would honestly say that this has been a pretty good month so far. This movie represents everything bad and everything toxic related to January film releases, and I can honestly say I did not miss it. I'm going to give The Devil Conspiracy an F-. If this is not the worst movie of the year, we're screwed. Well guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments down below, what is your favorite movie about angels and demons? For me, hands down, it's Kevin Smith's Dogma. It is so funny and so witty. If you can see this movie, because it's very rare to find unless you're like pirating it, I highly recommend you see it. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best. And don't forget to click subscribe and click the bell icon down below to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd.